What's up, everybody? We're here for another episode of the Throw Show. And we've got Sean Don. So, Sean, oh, wait, we're not even running this on Instagram. What the heck? This is lame. Anyway, I'm excited, Sean, that you're here because I feel like out of most of the elite throwers, I feel as though I can relate most to you. So I'm extremely excited to have you on the podcast because I also just think too, on top of that, you are a little bit more cerebral in the sense that you're a little more analytical. You think about things, you enjoy the process a bit more. And I think that's part of what I like about just sort of following you along. And on top of that, I feel like, you know, we've talked. I think the first time we talked was 2013, maybe.
Something like that, yeah.
So seeing you come from, you know, over the last 6 years, just develop over time, and then where you're at just in the last 2 weeks, it's been fun for me as an outsider to mildly partake in, you know, and mainly just through hanging out and talking with you. I've enjoyed watching you grow as an athlete, and just accomplish some serious stuff. And I think it's going to be good for people that are more in tune with the throwing world, and also who can recognize relative normalcy to be able to. I think that's the one thing with you is that you're able to relate to most people. And most people are able to relate to you, so which makes it more appealing to hear what you have to say. So I'm excited for you to be on the podcast and to be on the Throw Show.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too. I always love when D3 throwers, or at least with a background at the D3 level, are on, and especially, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if there's anyone. I mean, now Sean did have 1 year at Minnesota, but other than that, like a D3 thrower who has reached the level that you have reached, beyond that, like I always love to see that from.
I've got one.
Who?
Joe.
Oh yeah, Mo.
Obviously,
Brody.
Yeah, had like a play in my career as well. So I mean, reps off, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wanted to go into that. I mean, let's just jump right into that because I think, you know, he was at the D3 Nationals that I went to in 2015.
Where I beat him.
Yeah, he did beat you.
Yeah.
Once.
Yeah.
I got one.
Yeah.
I got one time.
Yeah. Did you get 7th there?
Dude, yeah. I remember. Well, first off, that was the first indoor nationals I didn't fall out of. Okay, that was making finals itself was an accomplishment. And then I was like 3rd going into finals with like 17:30 or some shit. And I was like, wow. And I think being in 3rd place like had me a little complacent, so I wasn't quite as ready to fucking chase and drop bombs, own mistakes there. But yeah, no. And then everyone just went off in finals, and I went from 3rd down to like 7th or whatever.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, that was a crazy final there.
Those last 3 rounds, like I was just sitting there. It was literally like every round there was people moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Nuts.
I mean, even the last round, Roger Steen, he was in like 7th or 8th place throwing like trash. His previous throw was like 1690, and then he goes 1882 or whatever it was. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Colt Feltus had a big foul there.
Yeah,
You had a monster foul down the right sector line.
That Colt was going to propose to his girlfriend, like right after the competition or something like that, and but he didn't end up winning, so then he didn't. I don't know if that was true.
Hopefully he's not watching.
That kind of stuff.
They got together. I know they got married.
Yeah, you broke the D3 weight record at that meet though, didn't you?
Yeah, the day before. That was also I can make up all the excuses in the world and say, oh, my adrenaline was low from the day before, but the day before I went 2175 with a 35-pound weight. I broke the Division III record twice, so that means I had to stop the competition and pull out the steel tape.
Oh yeah.
I thought bad about that, but it is what it is. But yeah, like 21-24, my third throw, and then 21-75, my last. Yeah, that was fucking. Looking back at it, I was like, damn, I had no idea what I was doing technique, but I gotta go.
Yeah.
So I guess, jumping right off from that, bear with me on this extremely long story, which is normal. I had a long discussion with Jake last night, and this was all about writing. Okay, so I was telling him, I was like, as a writer, when you're like 19, 20, you're like, dude, you're so bad at writing, you can't convey your message at all. And then as you write, you get better and better and better, and then you start to read a little bit more about it. And I told him, I was like, dude, I remember being like 23, 24, going on Wikipedia, learning subjects and how to not write in a passive voice and all this stuff, and like spending time developing as a writer. And I still am not that good of a writer, but I just told Jake, I was like, you get through these periods as a writer where you just sort of have these aha moments of enlightenment. And you're like, oh my gosh, like I used to write like crap. And then you look, you keep progressing. And I think that's the biggest thing with you is that, even when you were here, right, throwing, you just said 21-75, and you're like, and you threw at Mount Union, you're how many times All-American, how many times NCAA champ, and then you go to the next level, and then you get fourth in the hammer at the Division I level. So you're I don't know, a dozen times All-American, 5 or 6 time NCAA champ, but you've always embrace the process and have been willing to learn. And I think that's where I was going with that writing analogy, is that up from your freshman year until your senior year, you clearly had no idea what was going on, but you were willing to learn and willing to get better and willing to dig deep into the subject matter of being an elite athlete and looking into everything that you could possibly do to advance yourself as an athlete and to advance yourself mentally. And I feel like, you look back now and you're like, man, I had no idea what I was doing. But in reality, you did have an idea what you were doing. It was just that the curve you were on is completely different from where you're at now, but the path is the same path, So it's like, you might look back in 5 years from now when you're an 82-meter hammer thrower and be like, oh man, I had no idea what I was doing at 77. But in reality, you do, right? Like you're learning. That's what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So you do know what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think. Luckily, I did have a very good foundation, to learn from. So like learning from Rody, learning from Denard. I had them on my side for I was with Denard for a full year. I was with Rody for like a year and a half, 2 years, working online, and they taught me a lot. And I was essentially like. What is it, blank slate, like going into Mount Union. I really had no idea. I had a year of throwing experience, and then just learning from Rody and the whole process of training and how things kind of work together, and then also learning from Denard firsthand, seeing how he trained, and learning as much from him was just like incredible for me, and that's what kind of helped set the foundation for this kind of never stop learning mindset. Because I remember, and it's like this moment is still kind of fond in my memory, in my heart, whatever. It was when Denard was moving out after nationals, my freshman year, his senior year. He was moving out. He's like, all right, I'm heading back to Chicago. I'll see you when I see you. And I was like, damn, like low-key kind of sad because we were, like best buds, training partners. And he gives me a hug and he's like, hey, just think about how much you've learned this past year. And I was like, yeah, I learned a lot. He's like, make that, remember this feeling and try to learn just as much every year from here on out. And I definitely took that to heart. And yeah, every year, sophomore, junior, senior, transfer to Mount Union or to Minnesota, my years here at the training center, I've definitely learned just as much that first year, if not more, because I'm more hungry now than I probably was back then, even though I was quite hungry back then. But yeah, so that's that whole like never stop learning kind of mindset is something that I think has definitely fed into my success, and I'm definitely grateful to have learned from Denard and Rody like that. So it was good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's exactly what, like, people wonder what like the silver bullet is, and I think like that is it. Mm-hmm. That's that mindset. Like if you want to be good, if you want to be good, if you want to get better, like you have to have that mindset. There's no other way. Like, and I think that's the absolute biggest thing. For sure.
Yeah, you gotta be constantly looking for not the next best thing, but something else that you can improve on, and you have to be able to, kind of like admit your shortcomings, because most people, their egos are so big, they're afraid to admit that they're bad at anything.
Mm-hmm.
But even here at the training center, it's not just at the Division III or the Division I or NCAA or high school level. It's at all levels that people are just afraid to admit that they suck at something, and then they're afraid to kind of step into that role as a beginner again. So like for me this year, my mobility and like flexibility is just terrible, but I've like just put much more effort into like, all right, I got to go square one. Let's do like a static hamstring stretch and then build up from there, and stuff like that. And I feel like people, that's what kind of limits their success, is they're just like so like stuck in their old, and they're afraid to change and be uncomfortable and stuff like that. And I don't know, I'm sure you guys experience that. With all the
I don't even think that's necessarily from an athlete perspective. I don't think it's even has to be where like you suck at something. I think it's being open to understanding that there's always something that you can do better. And from a coaching perspective, there's always something that I can do better. Like Trevor, we just had this conversation where I laid out like the last like 6 to 8 weeks of training that I've been doing with the weightlifters and how I've been playing around with their loading and all this stuff. And I've been like really experimenting with some specific things. And I was telling him like what's happening right now, like live. And he's like, are you writing this down? And I was like, nah, I didn't write it down. He's like, see, you're doing all this stuff, but you're not writing it down. I was like, I blamed him. I was like, well,
of course. He's like, no, you need to come up with a system for me to
for me to be able to write it down. Yeah, right. And he's like, just put it in notes. But that's the whole thing. Is it's like, okay, so what's going to make me better today, tomorrow than I am today? I'm going to write all this stuff down instead of memorizing it all. I'm going to actually contribute and put it into a digital format or whatever. And that's the whole thing. Is it's like there's every single day like. You could be the best shot putter in the world. You could be the best hammer thrower in the world, but there's always something you can do to make yourself better. And it doesn't necessarily mean to be physical. It doesn't need to be, mental. It could be anything. It could be, a ritualistic thing. Anything that you can think of that you can make yourself a little more organized or a little more systematic, so that there is a distinct process, which will make it less stressful for you, which will make it easier for you to compete. And that's what I think the overriding lesson in life becomes,
Oh yeah, well there's like, it's the whole like what's that company on it?
Yeah.
Human optimization.
Yeah, human optimization.
And it's that I really take that to heart. And like literally, like you talked about, it doesn't have to be physical or anything like that. But like, there's so many different things that you can do to help like your training outside of training itself. And that's one thing that like I definitely I'm more on the fringe now because I am at the elite level, and there's so many things that I have nailed down pat, like all the basics, like eating, hydrating, sleeping, just training in general, warming up, cooling down. Now I'm like looking at other stuff like meditation, journaling, like cold showers, literally different types of diets and different supplements and multivitamins, and looking at all like the little things that kind of feed into like I said, total human optimization. And yeah, that's when like I said, people I feel like just really they don't enjoy that process that much.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
So I wanted to go back to the beginning now. Tell us when you first started throwing. Tell us, walk us through your first year of college, and then walk us through, your collegiate career, and then where we're at right now, because that's what I want to just sort of lay out for people where you were as a thrower out of high school, then where you were in the your first couple D3 years. I'm going to call you out for one thing because I'm trying to set you up for this. And,
okay.
And then
I know what you're going to do. Up even better.
Wait, what?
You're going to set me up, but I'm going to set it up to make it work for me if I think I know what it is, if I'm right.
I probably told you in Grand Valley. Damn it.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, no, so actually the story of how I got started throwing is one of my favorite ones to tell people. So like I said, threw it in middle school. I threw discus, but I wasn't any good. I threw like 90 to 100 feet or something like that. So like I don't know, at least in Ohio and in my district, whatever, like I was not any good. And I actually when I was in middle school, the shot put coach, we had a discus coach and a shot put coach. Like it was my 7th grade science teacher and my shop teacher, and my 7th grade science teacher, he's like, Sean, yeah, like it was the first week of outdoor track, whatever, and we're throwing shot and disc. He's like, yeah, Sean, I don't think you're cut out to be a shot putter, so just go throw discus and do that. So I was like, all right. At that time, I didn't really enjoy shot put, but fast forward, was it like 10 years, and I'm a Division III shot put champion.
Yeah.
I always thought that was cool. But
Trevor.
How I started throwing, like when I was in high school, was what I started. I wasn't very athletic. I know this is what Dane wants to harp on. I wasn't very athletic growing. Okay, so hear me out. I didn't play any travel ball or anything like that. Like growing up, so I played like rec league, basketball, baseball. Then in freshman year of high school, I made the freshman baseball team. Played catcher. I would split time, so I wasn't even like definitively good. I was just good enough, I guess. And then didn't make the team my sophomore year. Didn't make JV, and then what else? Wrestled my junior year. I wrestled 171 pound weight class. I was 501% JV level. All right. Once again, mediocrity. Okay.
He's loving this. He's loving this right now.
The whole kicker to this is that I was in marching band for my first 3 years of high school. So that was like my main extracurricular activity was marching band. So I was a band nerd.
Hang on, what instrument? Because I was in marching band for all 4 years of high school.
Yeah, I played tuba in marching band, but then I also played trumpet in addition to tuba in the concert band. Sousaphone, yeah.
Wait, some unknown facts. John Philip Sousa, who invented the sousaphone, died in Reading.
Wow.
Yeah.
15 minutes from here.
But moving on. So I was a band nerd. I was like a decent JV wrestler, and that off season of my junior year of high school, I got into I was doing the wrestling off season conditioning thing because I thought it was really cool and I wanted to wrestle the next year. And then we got into like really heavy lifting, like powerlifting, deadlifting. Like the first time I ever deadlifted was my junior year, I think, and it was the first time I deadlifted significantly, and I just fell in love with it. And I was like, I don't know, this is like kind of what I want to do. Like I enjoy lifting, and I figured out that like strength and conditioning coaches were a thing. I had no idea. I didn't know that was a legitimate profession. So I looked into it, and I was like, all right, well, if I want to go to school for this, if I want to do this when I'm a grown up, like I should go do like an internship, see if I like it. So the summer after my junior year, I joined a powerlifting gym as an intern, and it was by far, once again, just dumbest powerlifting into. But I learned a lot of how not to do things. You know, everything provides a lesson, whether it's what to do or what not to do. But so I went there, and they were like, "Oh, you should just forget about wrestling, just do powerlifting and like strongman competitions." And I was like, "Whatever, sure." They're like, "All right, well, if you're gonna do that, you got to bulk up." So they told me to eat a pound of pasta a day, a pound of meat a day, and a gallon of chocolate milk a day. And I did that for like 3 months over the summer. And I think like after 2 weeks, I cut the chocolate milk back to a half a gallon because I gained like legitimately 30 pounds in 2 weeks. I'm not even shitting you. and yeah, I ended up walking into the first day of senior year of high school weighing 240 pounds. So 171 in the winter, 240 in the fall. Mega bulk. I hit puberty at the time. I was a late. Okay, so this is just the preamble to the actual story itself. So like I got big and strong. My high school football coach tried to recruit me. He was like, come out and play football. You could probably get like some MAC offers, perhaps. Like I was 6'1", 240. You know, I might have done something if I had the aggressiveness, which I did at that point from wrestling. Meanwhile, I was like a really shy kid. You know, I played football as a kid. I hated it. But yeah. So then I think like winter rolls around, and social studies teacher, the head track coach for my high school, and he's like, "Sean, you're gonna come throw for me this year." And I was like, I don't know, but my head high school Coach Luck was his name. He was very like charismatic, like very passionate guy about track and field. I talk to him to this day. He's very supportive of me. And he's like, "You're gonna come throw for me." And I was like, "I don't know, maybe. I'm really into this lifting thing." He's like, "Well, we'll see." And then like after a while, there was this girl that I wanted to impress. This girl I had a crush on, and I wanted to take her out on dates. Do high school dating things. That you do. And so there's this girl I wanted to impress.
So your mom was driving you guys to the movies.
What's up?
Your mom was driving you guys to the movies.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, so there's this girl I wanted to impress, and her boyfriend at the time went to a rival high school, and he threw as well. He threw shot and hit. So like I was like, damn, and like like the male ego is a hell of a thing, and I was like, damn, if I throw farther than him, she's gonna like me more than him. So I was like, you know what? I was like, all right, I'll come throw for you. We'll see what happens. And the best part about this whole story is that so I went on throwing my senior year. I ended up throwing 53.10 or 53.8 in shot, and like 158 in discus after 1 year of high school throwing experience. And I made the state meet in shot put, fouled out there. I had a good history of that because I didn't know how to stay in the ring. And the best part is I ended up getting the girl.
Nice.
All right.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Not
That's
saving
all.
your throws at states.
Yeah.
Getting the girl. So everybody
Yeah.
watching.
It does work.
Girl, and I'm still here almost 10 years later. But yeah, so in high school, like I said, training was really powerlifting folk. I had my coach was a glide coach. He threw Division III shot put at John Carroll. And yeah, just kind of whatever. Walked down to Mount Union, didn't get recruited by anybody. My head coach, like I said, wanted me to go to Baldwin Wallace because that was alma mater. But unfortunately, and this is like my career looking back at it, was like a lot of weird things have fallen into place to kind of get me to where I am. And like I said, my coach wanted me to go to Baldwin Wallace, but at the time, their coach was Jared Davis, who coached Kevin Phipps, who is now at coaching Cornell, and Coach Tyler Burdorf, our fellow Division III competition Trevor.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, so Jared was there, but Jared had left like just at the same time that I would have been getting recruited, and Kevin was not yet hired because he was still throwing for Baldwin Wallace. So I literally slipped through the cracks of Baldwin Wallace and just kind of ended up at Mount Union just because that's where I wanted to go for school in general. And I just happened to walk on there, and then that's when I hooked up with Denard, good old Fred Brickner, and then Justin Rohde, who I worked with online. And so yeah, so like my first year of college was really like learning just how to throw in general, how to train in general. And luckily, like Denard was kind of a madman. He would do 10 sessions a week, like very strict Bonner Tuck style. And so I got to see that, and I saw that, all right, you can do this stuff. You can make it work at the collegiate level. This is how hard you need to work if you want to be successful. And so, yeah, he taught me a lot. Denard taught me a lot. I still talk to him every now and then. He's like probably one of the most influential people in my life. And then Rohde as well taught me a lot about training and just how to, just program and how things weave in and out, periodization and stuff like that. And so freshman year at Mount Union, I was took fifth in shot put, like 17:31 was my PR. So I went from 53, 54 in high school to 56 in college after, like I said, 9-10 months of training. So it was pretty cool. Sophomore year kind of sucked. I got really fat, got really injured because I thought mass moves mass. I thought it was a shot put. I thought I needed to be 300 pounds when I don't have the frame for that. I was like a really, really soft 280, like just the fattest, softest 280. Like I didn't even have that, like, people look big and like jacked at 280. That wasn't me. No, I had a fucking tire around my stomach. It was great. And so fouled out at indoors there. Made outdoors in hammer, and I threw 59.70 and took fifth as a sophomore in the hammer. And I was like, okay, that went better than I expected. Especially that was when me and Rohde kind of split because I thought I was just getting injured. I think it was at this point that me and Dane first interacted. I called you, and I was asking questions about like injuries and Bonner-Tuck's training and stuff like that. And that's when I first, I think, reached out to you.
What's weird is that at that time, Kevin Phipps had contacted me asking me if I had a job, and I was talking with Dan Maroney at that time, who found me from an old blog I wrote about Bunderchuck.
Yeah.
So I was talking with this guy, Dan, who's a D3 football player. Kevin Phipps had called me. He had interviewed for a job at Lehigh. He doesn't take the job at Lehigh. I was going to hire Phipps, and then he just went back to Ohio and took the job at Baldwin Wallace.
Yeah.
So it's like a really weird, I mean, it's throwing. It's such a small community, so.
Yeah. But yeah, so sophomore year, that was kind of a turning point for me. Like I said, took 5th in hammer, and like that's when I took a step back. I started like losing weight and training better and learning more about the training process and just how to piece things together still. But I took a step back after that sophomore season. And I was like, well, I took 5th in hammer. I took 5th in shot, back-to-back years. Shot was kind of beating me up. Like, I don't know if it's for me. And like, I really thought about it. I was like, I always wanted to be an Olympic level athlete. Like my freshman year of my union, that was my goal. I never really told anybody, but like because people would be like, oh, all right, nice try, good luck. But deep down, I always had that belief that I could achieve that. So I took a step back and I was like, well, I'm okay at hammer, I'm okay at shot, and I can go either way here. So at one point I calculated how close I was to the world record in each event, like by percentages. And I think I was like 78% like of the way to the hammer world record and like 75% of the way to the shot put world record. And I was like, well, that, and then I don't really have very big wrists. Like I don't have good grip strength. And I don't have good bench press. So I was like, okay, maybe I should just look into this hammer thing. And so that was like, I decided, all right, I'm going to train hammer as my number one event. Took the whole fall to the weight throw for like 6-8 months straight. Got really good at that when I won my first D3 weight throw title in the fall of 2014. And then went outdoors. Struggled really bad because that's when I learned that throwing weight is horrible for throwing hammer, terrible for your feeling. Took me 3 months just to feel the hammer again, and struggled to get to nationals that outdoor year in hammer because I was just like all over the place, falling out of meets, couldn't keep a throw in the ring, just a total mess. But stuck through it, and ended up making the national meet in 3 events. Shot, disc, and hammer. It was the last spot in disc, like the number 1 seed going in shot, and then was the 8th or 9th or something in hammer. And that weekend, I decided to get my shit together and PR'd by 6 meters in the hammer. Went from 59.70 to 66. Won that, and then won shot put the next day with 15.84, like a half meter off my personal best. And then took 7th in discus the final day. So I ended up scoring 22 points for my team, and we ended up winning a team national title. Arguably my favorite memory ever, at least for now. And and then went on from there, and I was like, okay. Was kind of living the life, enjoying the success I had that I'd found, and was still training hard over the fall, but that senior year sensation kind of set in like around like December, January. And I was like, shit, man, like, what am I going to do after I graduate? Like, I want to keep throwing, but I don't know if I can. And I was like, well, maybe I'll be a volunteer assistant coach here at Mount Union, just keep training. And, I'll try to get 70 meters this year, and then I'll be, I thought I was, like, I realistically make the world team in 2015, which looking back on it was just a dumb, I had no clue what I was doing. But once again, I had that belief still, so I was still training hard. And it was around... like the end of January in the winter of 2015, got a call from Lyndon Rader at Minnesota, and he was like, hey, we kind of want you to come, throw for us. Have you considered transferring, stuff like that? And and I thought about it for like a couple months. It was probably the most uncomfortable decision I've ever made in my life, being uncomfortable and doing things out of your comfort zone. Because I was like, all right, I'm going to move 12 hours away from everything I know in Ohio. That's where I grew up. That's where all my friends and family are. And I'm going to move 12 hours away to Minnesota, totally different environment, Division I, athletics, different weather, terrible winters and stuff like that. And I was like, shit, like, I don't know if this is going to be the thing to do. But I was, once again, speaking with Rody and Denard, I was like, I gotta chase my dream and see what happens, you know. And if I, as long as I put all my effort into it and give it everything I got, I know it'll work out for the best. And that's kind of been my attitude ever since. And so, yeah, I decided to transfer like February and told my teammates, and they were super pissed because they were like, damn, we're not going to be able to repeat as a team. Had lost about like half my friends because they were like, they thought I was fake for transferring. But the other half of my friends were like, yo, dude, like, you're doing the right thing. Clearly there's nothing, you know, else for you to accomplish in Division III. Like, you've already won national titles, you won a team title, you set division records, stuff like that. So that was a tough moment, like socially, because I was like, damn, half my friends don't like me anymore. Half my friends are still all about it. But either way, I was still set on being the best thrower I could be. Transferred to Minnesota, trained my balls off for 15 months. It was like August of 2015 to through the trials of the following year. And this is where I got introduced to triphasic training, Cal Dietz. Started working with Lyndon on technique and hammer programming, stuff like that. And yeah, that was life-changing. Like I said, trained my absolute balls off. I think that's still the hardest training I've probably ever done. Not necessarily the smartest, but definitely the hardest, and I saw the most gains. Went from 66 to 74, focusing just on the hammer and weight, and went from 2175 to 2305. And yeah, took 4th at NCAAs, took 9th at the trials. First year post-collegiate, working with Sean Donnelly via the internet. Still doing Cal Dietz triphasic training, stuff like that. Was consistent around 70, 74. Was much more consistent in the previous year. Through some finagling and ass kissing, I got myself into the Olympic Training Center in the fall of 2017 after taking 3rd at USA's in the hammer and missing out on the world team. But yeah, still got in here, and then so I've been here since fall of 2017, and yeah, it's been life changing. It's really cool to look back and see like how much shit I've gone through and how much shit I had to put up with just to keep chasing my dream, but I'm still here and things are working out, so I mean, I really can't complain. So yeah, long drawn out story, but yeah.
I think I know it's long and drawn out, but my goal for outside of me about to troll you was that I really think like that process and just understanding, one, the belief is almost as important as the methodology. Like the belief of who you are and what you can become and what you're capable of, and believing like deep down inside I can do this, is the absolute most important part. Because if you are slightly having any doubt and you don't know what that goal is going to be, and you stated the goal, you know, already, and you're still on that path, you're still on that process. So it's like understanding what that goal is and how you know, it's a constant learning process, it's a constant experimental process, it's constantly getting hammered with all these different stressors that are just life, they're not even just training either. And then recognizing like it doesn't matter, because I believe that I can eventually accomplish this, and it's going to take time, it's going to take effort, it's going to take me learning and being progressive, because you're not 6'5", you're not 95% fast twitch, you're not, you know, somebody like Dylan Dylan Armstrong, who's so gifted. That's what makes that process, I think, even more powerful. And but it always comes back to just the belief and knowing you're capable of that, you know. And I think that's something that I think, especially high school kids that are watching or listening, is that's got to be the most important part. Is like, look, you can't listen to anybody else. You can't listen to obviously you gotta like communicate and stuff with your parents and your relationships and your friends and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if this is something you want to do, be an elite thrower, like that's what it takes right there. That exactly what you just said to a T, and everybody's got to see that.
Well, yeah, that's what, you know, like you said, it's all about the belief. And I have this little like poster thing of Muhammad Ali hung up on my wall now, and it says like the quote is like, I believed I was the best, or I said I was the best before I ever believed that I was. And that's kind of, I guess, how I would you know, explain or how I would categorize my kind of belief was like I had no idea that I actually had the potential to be like an Olympic level elite thrower. At least when I started out, I had no idea that I actually had the potential, but I definitely believed that I could. And but the second thing to that is obviously I had the process to follow it up, because a lot of people will say, oh, I want to be an Olympic athlete, I want to make the Olympics, I want to do this, I want to throw 70 meters, I want to throw 80 meters, I want to throw 20 meters in shot put. They'll talk big, but then they don't follow it up, and they don't make the sacrifices. And that's one thing that I think, like you said, I think like my story kind of highlights is that if you do believe and then you put in the work, and things can work out in your favor. But still, to this day, I feel like the farther I go, the more I progress, the more almost unrealistic that my own story is. Because like a year ago, 2 years ago, I thought anybody could do this. Anybody could go from a marching band geek to a 70-meter hammer thrower. But the more that I do it, I'm like, okay, now this is where you want to troll me and say that I'm a better athlete than I actually think I am.
Yeah, but here's my thing. I think you are 100% a better athlete than what you put off. But here's the other thing. You're around some of the best athletes in the U.S. and they aren't doing half of the shit that you're doing. And that's the biggest, dude, that's the biggest thing right there, is that's where for me it's like, how the fuck are they around you? And this shit pisses me off. You've got some of the freakiest people on the planet. And if they did 90% of what you're doing, the world record would be 23.50 in the shot. The discus world record could be broken if they did what you did all the time. But these guys are so arrogant. They refuse to not party all the time. They refuse to learn about mobility, learn about nutrition, learn about every little nuance of technique, learn about mental prep, learn about, studying Wim Hof method, learn about nutrition stuff. They're too busy being dipshits, playing video games or whatever. Yeah, they're still good guys. They're good guys. But at the end of the day, what matters is taking your potential. And so, yes, you're a much better athlete than you might put off, but you do so much stuff. And that's why I think you might even recognize now where you're like, well, I can't believe I got here, because what happens is you're there now and you're like, man, these guys aren't even doing what I'm doing. It's that hard. Like, doing what you do every single day is that difficult to hold yourself accountable. So it's a lot easier to get to that level that you're at right now when you are a freak, because you don't have to do that stuff, because that's the hard stuff. But to go from where you're at 77 to 80 plus, you know that every little thing matters, and every little thing will contribute to you being an 80 plus meter hammer thrower. And that's the part where it's like, it blows my mind seeing it from the outside that some of those guys aren't sitting there and just contributing and just learning more. Like, that's the thing. Like, and I'm not trying to be a jackass, because I think all those guys are good guys. I think they're all great people. But at the end of the day, if they were more in tune with the little things, if they're more in tune with all that stuff, that's what's going to get them to be world record holders. And they still might. And that's what could get them to be, the best of all time that you could ever fathom.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating as a coach, because it's like, man, what the hell are you doing? Like, you got somebody out there that's progressive. At least just talk to you. Because for someone who is elite, not me, clearly not me, someone who is elite, it's like you always want to look for every little thing. And I know I love Tom Brady and I brag about him all the time and all that stuff, and Bill Belichick, but that's the difference, is that Tom Brady shows up at work at 5 a.m. He's doing film study at 5 a.m. He's the best that ever walked the planet. But his mental preparation, his strategic preparation, his physical preparation, his nutritional preparation is better than anybody else. And he was a Joe Schmo clown in college. He was a turd king. He had a cannon for an arm, but he sucked. But he did every little thing all the time, and now he's 41 and he's got 7 freaking Super Bowl rings. And it's like, at what point does somebody else in other sports? And it's the same thing where it's like, I always say this with Cal Sanderson or with Dan Gable or John Smith. You can go to other sports and see these other guys. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we doing that in throws? Why aren't we learning every little thing from every other sport that you could ever imagine, and then compile it?
Well, that's the thing. I think we're just thinking about it because that'd be a really good point. Because like if you compare an elite level track athlete to an NFL athlete, in terms of like the little things that Tom Brady does, I don't know too many track athletes who do that. Especially like myself, outside of myself, too many other people that I talk to, and they're like, "Oh, I'm trying this out, I'm doing this, that, and whatever." And one thing that I think that probably contributes to that a little bit is obviously just the pay grade. Obviously, if you're in the NFL, you have people who want to help you out because you're in the spotlight, and then 2, you have the money to be like, all right, I'm going to go spend $7,000 on a float tank or something like that.
Yeah.
Still, there's all the stuff that I can do. I think one thing that people, I don't know. There's a lot of people, like you said, who just have the natural talent and they just get here kind of doing whatever, and that's great. And if they buckled down and did absolutely everything they could to improve, they most definitely would break the world record or at least get much closer to it than they would have otherwise. Where was I going with this?
Well, I think a lot of that issue too is also the top down. Like I think it's like, dude, I'm gonna blow myself here. Is that I can get someone like Orazio to throw 21.51, and I'm bragging right now, and I don't care because that dude is not as gifted as 90% of the shot putters that are top 25 in the U.S. But just working online with him and giving him all these little different tools, and he doesn't have the funding, he doesn't have the shit that these guys have, and it's like all he's just learned over the last 11 months. Like, oh my gosh, this stuff can impact me. This stuff is stuff I've never even thought about, and that's also where it's like, and maybe that is where I'm at here, where it's a little easier because we are in full control of the throwers for the most part and the gym in general, so we don't get the freakiest of athletes, but we have that sort of buckled down. This is the system. This is everything that factors into being an elite athlete. It's not just go to training, lift weights, throw, go home. Mm-hmm. It's everything else. And it's like, that's also where it's too. It's like, there's got to be a little bit more of an authoritative, progressive mindset as well that can then impact and influence, those guys, because they're at this stage where there's guys there that could be at that level that we're talking about very easily. And some of them I do believe, do a lot more than I'm giving them credit to. Like just talking with Darrell, that like he does some stuff that I didn't think he did. Mm-hmm. But some of the other guys, I'm like, I mean, just talking with you before, like you're like, I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, like you guys have developed a good culture, and most of the guys that come here come from, they're product of their environments in college. And so, like for me, my culture at Mount Union was very winning oriented. Like all my best friends were all just as passionate about winning as I was. Even though it was Division III, we were like, hey, we're going to go dominate the conference meet. We're going to go dominate at nationals. We're going to go do this, whatever. We're going to do all the things outside of it, barring some, alcohol intake on the weekends. We're going to do everything we can to, we're going to train our balls off to make sure we can do that. And going to Minnesota, the culture was different. The team didn't have an overall winning mindset because like we were one of the worst teams in the Big Ten over the past few years. But I went in there and I knew what I needed to do to succeed. And so that's kind of what has always carried me through. And so that's what I think some people lack when they do come to the Olympic training centers, because whatever program they were in, they never really learned how to, obviously they were dominant in their own right just because of genetics and kind of luck in summer. But yeah, for the most part, I feel like that culture just isn't established here. So like I do all my weird shit, like my Wim Hof breathing and my cold showers and like infrared light therapy and blah, blah, and whatever, and yoga at night and stuff like that. And like people like kind of laugh at it. They think it's weird. They think it's funny because it's different, and it is. And like that's why I just kind of laugh with them. I'm like, yeah, no, it's weird, but it works. So like, right. And I think slowly, with all the new guys that we have here this year, like things are starting to change. The culture is starting to change, mostly because I think, when I first came here, I was still essentially nobody. I'd thrown 74, and even the next year I'd thrown 76 high, but still pretty much on the world level. Didn't win a U.S. championship or anything like that, so people were still kind of like, oh, Donnelly's doing all this weird shit, blah, blah, whatever. Yeah, you got a little bit better, but it doesn't mean shit. But now this year, I think people are starting to like kind of tune in a little bit more and be like, oh, damn, Donnelly's doing some different things, and it's definitely working.
Right.
So we should try some different things too. So I think I can feel the culture starting to shift, especially with some of the newer guys here. But yeah, at the same time, there's just a lot of dudes that they could do a lot more to perform better. But when it comes back to it, it's are they willing to admit that they're not as good as they are, and examine themselves objectively, not be like, oh, I'm the shit just because I did this one thing one time. But it's more of like, I have more of like a what have you done for me lately kind of mindset. So like I think like I'm only good at my last meet, I'm only as good as
that's where I think too, and I think I forget who we talked. Maybe this was with Legend, but I think that this is like that blue collar type mentality of like you guys and Trevor, not like that D3 mentality was always, and even when I was at Penn State, I always felt that from D3 guys, it was like they're clawing because they wanted to beat the D1 guys, and even like Cam says that a lot, where he's like, dude, I want to be the best Penn State thrower, even though I throw for Penn State Harrisburg, I want to be the best Penn State discus thrower.
Yeah,
and that's like stuff that's the attitude, and that's the difference, and it's where it's tough for somebody who is already the best. It's very hard for them to grasp that, but that's why you do see someone in other sports. Like if bringing back up Cale Sanderson, it's having that mentality all the time when you are physically gifted, and you just know every little thing adds up, and it just builds and builds and builds, and that's why those guys, a guy like him, can win the Olympics and not have a point scored on him because he's just that much more gifted physically and mentally. He's got your mindset and the body of Krauser. Now all of a sudden you've got a freak of nature that's just unbeatable, literally unbeatable. And that's where it's like that blue collar chip on their shoulder. I've got something to prove. I want to be the best. And it can start with kids in high school like you, where it's like, you know what, man, like maybe this is what I want to do. I want to get a girl. And that's just that dangle. That carrot goes from a girl to I want to win a national, or I want to be an All-American. Then the carrot goes to I want to be a national champ. Then the carrot goes to I want to be an NCAA record holder. Then I want to be a D1 All-American. Then it's I want to be in the world team. And then and what's cool is I think the fact that you didn't make it in 2017 probably is going to be the best thing for you over the next 5 years or the next 2.5, 3 years, because that's just like, oh man, now I got to wait till 2019. And then it's like what you're doing now is going to set you up for next year. And it's just this snowball effect. And that's what's so cool for me to see it is it's like, and talking with you pretty regularly over the last 3 or 4 years, it's so fun because it's like, it's playing out, it's playing out and it's so neat to see. I did want to ask some serious questions, but before I'm done tooting your horn even further, it's just fun. It's fun from the outside because it's like, it makes me feel like there's hope to change, to change the whole throwing feeling.
And I think like one of the biggest things people miss lots of times is you look at qualities of a person and qualities of an athlete, and it's like everyone wants to point out, oh, they're big, oh, they're explosive, oh, they're athletic.
They can get away with it.
But it's really you got to add. They know how to prepare. They know how to give attention to details, and really those two things are way more or just as important as the physical attributes. And that's what especially young athletes, I think, and anyone young listening or in college or anyone needs to realize that those mental, those preparatory attributes are just as important and are going to make you really the only way you can succeed without those, being 6'5", having a 400-pound bench press when you're in high school,
Those little things, those are the same reason why I want Sean to work for Throws University.
Full circle.
No, for sure. I definitely agree. It's the whole going back to the whole chip on the shoulder mentality. That's one thing that Denard really drove into me that one year that he did coach me online. He was like, hey, like, because things will just add up. Things are like not getting sponsorships, not getting grants, or not getting funding, or stuff like that would like add up, and you'd be like, hey, like just I'd be kind of pissed off. I'd text him and be like, damn it, they didn't give me this. This didn't happen for me. Blah blah, whatever. This fell through. And he was like, good. Like, use that to fuel you. Like, always have that chip on your shoulder. Like, always have that no matter what, because that's kind of your driving force, your driving mentality. And so I've really taken that to heart. And like you said, not making that world team in 2017, in hindsight, at the time I was so pissed, dude. I was like depressed. I went on like a week bender of just like pure sadness, like eating pizza, drinking beer, just like the exact opposite of what Nat was doing. But I was super, super sad about that at the time. Really pissed off, especially the way that it happened, having taken third and being ranked like 32nd or 33rd in the world. I was like really at U.S. like championships is a meaning thing, and I argued with Duffy Mahoney, that sports performance. I argued with his secretary. I argued with some fucking lawyer guy. And I know, like it clearly says you should take, whatever, bunch of bullshit backstory. But yeah, hindsight, I was like right now, I think that was, like you said, one of the best things that could have happened to me, because that made me so much more hungry. And I think if I would have made that team, perhaps I would have a little bit more complacent over the past year, and something like that. So, but now I know I didn't make the team, and now I'm at this point now where I hit the world standard. I'm more or less on the team, knock on wood. And then hopefully I can crack the Olympic standard for Tokyo next competition in a few weeks here, 7750. So we'll see. But yeah, it's been a wild ride. All the little stuff that feeds into success is cool to see, especially as I continue to do more crazy shit, like throw far and make teams and hopefully set records and win medals. Crazy to see how all that little shit pays off, and it is cool.
So Sean, for your meet preps, like when you're getting into a comp, do you have any crazy rituals? Do you have any, or just unique rituals specific to you where, do you have a mantra? Do you get into La La Land? What do you walk us through? Like, you're an hour out from a comp. Walk us from an hour out all the way until you're about to throw.
Oh man, all right, an hour out. Okay. Let's see. For me, my warm-up starts about an hour out. Like, I'm very detail, like you said, detail-oriented, and I do the same warm-up at training every day. I do the same warm-up for competitions, at least when I can. I try to do everything. Got music in if I can. It's really lighthearted, like good vibes. Nothing like more chill, relaxed stuff. Just loose. If you see me at meets, like I'll kind of be like dancing, even though I don't have good dance skills. I just kind of bounce around and have fun, feel the rhythm. Listen to music. Let's see what else. Most recently, I've just started reading before a competition and journaling. So like as I'm heading to a competition, like as I'm on the van or whatever, headed over from the hotel, I'll just journal like a page in my book, just like what I'm feeling, how things, whatever's on my mind, stuff like that. And most of the time it comes back to, at least over the past month, my mindset has changed a lot, and it's come back to more of like just being like trusting everything. I guess over the past few weeks I've had kind of I found more faith, not necessarily religion, but God. Whereas like before I was kind of like not very into it, but now I'm kind of definitely more open to the idea that there's some God or some higher power that's controlling, or not controlling, but kind of guiding, steering things, throughout the universe. And so like
Trevor's eating this up.
I know,
We'll talk.
I know. but no, like legitimately, like I don't know what it has been, and I'll end up writing in my journal, like most of the stuff, like whatever happens, I'll be happy. I trust that whatever, I'll throw far when I need to throw far, and this, that, whatever. And that's changed my mindset a lot. So that's been kind of what I'll do leading up to a meet, especially if I'm feeling nervous. It helps me get those nerves out, and kind of, it's like very cathartic in a way. And then, yeah, once I'm warming up, I got my little RPR, I know Dane's a huge fan of that. Just kidding. And he's holding his tongue. But yeah, just very general, dynamic warm-up. I like I said, just reading. Like right before I start my warm-up, I like to just walk around and read for like 10 or 20 minutes. I do that every morning before training. And once again, just kind of calms my mind and helps me focus, and put on some binaural beat to really get in that flow state. And yeah, so I mean, and that's the thing. Like, so this is just like the bare minimum. I got stuff I do the night before. I got stuff I do the morning of.
Right.
I got